Let's just keep it conversational. Fuck the camera. Let's talk about how we got here.
So we don't look at the camera.
Yeah, no. We just talk to each other.
Talking.
But how did we get here where we're at, fighting against short-term rentals, which none of us thought. Pre-fire, what the fuck. But how did we get to where we're at now, starting from August 8th even, in your opinion?
I know for me, I had a conversation with Mom right after the fire, and just talking to people living in the hotels. And we talked about now that Lahaina was gone, and if we rebuild, would there be a world that could exist where instead of so many tourists coming and staying on the side and all the accommodations, short-term vacation rentals, what it would look like for locals to come back home and be able to use these spaces. And if this was an opportunity to kind of clean the slate and make Lahaina what it used to be and what we saw growing up, and even more so what our parents had growing up and our grandparents had growing up. So for me personally, from the first testimony I ever gave, even before we had our Kaanapali Beach occupation, that was a part of my testimony. And I don't even think I was testifying on like the right thing, because I didn't even know what testimony was. I was just like, hey, you have power. You're going to take my whole life and all my problems. Listen, yeah. This is how I feel. And I think it was even irrelevant to the bill that was being heard, but it was something to do with Lahaina at the time. And I gave that testimony, and I was like, this should be a place where everybody can come home. And that's always been my focus, is because at this point, like, our village is gone. Everyone left. Like, after the flip, even before the fire, they already left. And then after the fire, watching more and more people leave, it was always my hope that everyone would come back, and that their spot here in our hometown wasn't going to be replaced with somebody that wasn't from here or a visitor at that point.
And I think on August 8th, our biggest fear came true. Our biggest fear of being correct. That all the things that Kanaka locals have been fighting for, not having enough water, not having enough home for our community members, not our tourism just taking over every single thing. I think our greatest fear was that we would be proven right one day. And unfortunately, it manifested itself in the form of a fire, which completely just destroyed our town, our means of living. It disrupted what was normal for us, normalcy. Like, I have not experienced a normal day since that day. And unfortunately, we were proven right. And it sucks to be right because of how it manifested itself. That's kind of how we came together and decided as this next generation that we would be moving forward, because we were right already. Yeah, we were right. Maybe not technically us, but the people that we love and we were around all the time, Hukai, Keaumoku, Kapali, Kaipo, all of our heavy-hitting community members, they were right. Our kupuna were right. I wholeheartedly believe that everything that we do now as Lahaina Strong is also right, because we're seeing the effects and the positive effects that's having on every single person in and around us. Yeah. So, Lahaina Strong, born literally of the fire, and we've learned to become comfortable in that environment of disarray, of constant struggle, chaos.
I think we were comfortable with that way before the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think before the fire too, though, we were all in this like normalcy of day-to-day rat race of knowing deep down that it wasn't supposed to be like this, and it shouldn't have gotten to this point to begin with, but somehow it did, and we were in this like cycle. And after the fire, it really like highlighted, you couldn't ignore it anymore. You couldn't ignore the fact that most of our housing still standing was short-term rentals. You couldn't ignore it because that's all we had left. And so it kind of had everybody in the community take this like massive, oh my gosh, this is real, this is huge, and it ignited everybody. Like, we created our own sense of normalcy in this fight, because it's like we we can't look past it anymore.
Yeah.
I think when that statistic came out of like, I think it was like 73% north of Lahaina were short-term rentals, and that was like, we lost Lahaina. 87. So 87%, I think that was like, definitely solidified it for us. Like, okay, so what we have left, aside from Hawaiian homes and Upper Lahaina, what we have left is 87% short-term rentals. So how is that going to sustain us? How does that make sure that our people can stay here? So I think that was like, something that solidified it for me, like something needs to be done, and now is the time.
I mean, even before we got to that point, we were just hearing all the horror stories, and family members who are really close to us having to move their entire life for the 5th time now at this point. 5 times within a month and a half, because somebody made the decision that we were ready to accept tourism back to our home. And that's what caused hotels to be like, okay, now we gotta make room for people, so we need to move all the people here and this. And how do you heal? Yeah? How do you heal when your entire life is uprooted yet again? When you just a month ago were walking past people dead on the street? Yeah? How the hell are we supposed to heal? How the hell are people supposed to even come to a place of being comfortable when now they gotta move again? Basically, because of the place that they were staying in. A lot of our issues that we experienced were because of the place that was housing them at now this time, and now they were just being treated like a nuisance, something just being in the way. And that's bullshit. So that's when we decided, you know what, this is no. we don't give a shit if people start calling Lahaina Strong radical or whatever. We're gonna do what needs to be done. And what needed to be done was, it took the form of our protest on Kaanapali Beach. We weren't even looking at it, right? We weren't even really considering short-term rentals, basically to the extent that we are now. We were just looking at it like, oh, look at all these places sitting vacant with washing machines, stoves, and enough storage so that people could get comfortable and start to heal after the most detrimental thing in the world.
One of the biggest things for us was like the opening of tourism, right? We got that petition, we were super successful. And we were saying, right, like these benchmarks need to be hit, because we were getting flack of like, oh, they're just trying to do away with tourism forever. And I was like, no, like let's have these benchmarks hit, like housing, childcare, because our schools weren't open, no daycare. So how are we supposed to go back to work tourism without this? And when they decided to open the tourism, it was like, okay, so how are we gonna fight for these benchmarks then? Because we're gonna open anyways. And I think that's why we were like, hey, we gotta tackle housing. No, I think we were advocating for all those benchmarks that we talked about, but I think housing was like, at least if we can get people in stable housing, or that's like one thing off the agenda.
I think that should have been the starting point, and then focus on like getting the kids in a stable school. I mean, the kids were learning at a church and in parking lots,
At the beach parks.
at the beach parks before this was all happening, and tourists were welcome. And I think for a lot of us who had just lost everything in the fire, and then now having to leave Lahaina, seeing that number, like living on the other side of the pali, and seeing the statistics of only 13% of the remaining housing in West Maui was short-term vacation rentals, and seeing that tourists were welcome to our hometown, but we were not, was the hardest pill to swallow, because that's where it showed where the priorities were for our leaders and people who were in positions of power. It's like, you didn't even give us a chance. And yeah, like you said, 2 years later, and I still, the whole past month, even just trying to move in with just everything feeling super unstable, not having any electric, I feel stuck in August 2023. I feel like I'm going to drive down to Esterns or Napili or Honokoi Beach Park or Sheraton, and there's going to be a hub there. So even though 2 years have gone by, it doesn't feel like it. It literally feels like time just stood still.
Well, it's like Paele said, right? It revealed something that we knew to be true, and that's our government prioritizes tourism and corporate interests over our own people. When we're advocating for and asking for our kids to go back to schools, testing for the soil and if it's even safe for people to be in their homes, and all these basic needs like dignified housing, the ability to cook or do laundry and not be, reprimanded for it. But none of that was made a priority. It was welcoming back tourism. And that's why we did a petition that got over 14,000 signatures, presented it to Green, pretty much got kicked out of his office, right? Like we were
Got completely
bombarding
dismissed.
in, yeah. And then from there we're like, all right, let's do it.
Gloves
And
are
then
off.
there,
We're gonna do what it takes.
yeah, and then there was also, when we looked at the Minatoya list specifically and STRs and the 87%, we were like, all right, let's do a moratorium. Like, we want to get people out of the hotels into dignified housing, something with a washer and dryer, something with like space. And there was precedent already set back in COVID when there was a moratorium on short-term rentals. People could not travel here. So we're like, there's precedent, let's do it. This is obvious to us.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not welcoming tourists back so quickly was obvious to us as well, and we didn't see that. So it was like, all right, we're going to go for this moratorium. And months went by and we didn't see it. So we had to pivot into something bigger that we didn't even realize, like long term, of like, this is something that could change the course of our history, not just for a couple years after the fire, but for the rest of our lives, and be able to bring back families.
I think it's funny when people totally blame us. Like, oh, it's you guys. It's like, no, if you do some research, like the Minatoya list has been an issue for a long time.
Since the 70s.
Like for a long time. And now it's like, it's coming back up. You know what I mean? And now the time is now,
I mean, there was documents from back in the 70s that we found that predicted the horrific nature of short-term rentals and what it would turn into, and predicted that if it wasn't controlled and if it wasn't regulated, that it could become what it is today. There was even a book written about everything from VI to housing and everything, I think 1993, that talked about short-term rentals. And 1993 was an issue.
So it started with that, right? We wanted a moratorium temporarily just to put our fire survivors in dignified housing where they could cook and clean and just live and start to heal. But then, we're on the beach, that was the presence we wanted to set up for our protest. If they're going to kick our people out of the hotels to make room for their guests, then we're going to make the #1 tourism destination, the most beautiful beach, top 10, whatever, we're going to make that an eyesore for the hotels in retaliation to, kind of urge and push our decision makers to prioritize our people that these hotels are kicking out.
Just to make an example of what it would look like. The more these hotels continue to do so, this is what it would look like more and more. So even though we were doing it out of protest, we were showing them what the future holds for
And
their
I think
actions.
the governor and all the news was talking about Kanapali being this mecca of tourism, right? And it was like, oh, mecca of tourism, watch this. Watch us set up right in your mecca of tourism, So it was strategic to be there, definitely strategic.
And it's kind of crazy, 23% of the entire state's revenue is generated from just Maui County. And the fact that we were treated like just the problem child is even more so a slap in the face. Like, here we go, we help you run this entire state. The state would be nothing without this little ass town, but then you're gonna treat us like we're a bunch of rats and you just gotta move us around. Yeah, so bullshit. But it did start as just we weren't even talking about legislation at that time, right? We just wanted long-term
Moratorium.
dignified housing.
I don't
And
know.
to get off the beach.
Yes.
Maybe 80% of us here didn't even know what legislation was.
I didn't even know what a moratorium was.
Yeah.
Moratorium.
Over here, moratorium, what is that?
legislation.
Oh, I don't know.
I didn't even know what county council was. I was like,
Yeah, we didn't know how to testify. We didn't know
We were-
what.
We've come a damn long way.
Yeah. So, I think we can all agree that the intention was never to do a full STR phase out legislative session, changing the laws and all of this, but the reason we got there is because, initially we were just asking for that moratorium, just for the time being until we get our people back on their feet so they don't have to shuffle around hotel to hotel. It was the easiest route. It would have been a win-win for everybody. The short-term rental owners could have had their place rented out because they were all vacant, being that tourism was still kind of building back up. and our people would have a home and a place to stay. But that didn't happen. There was a lot of greed involved with that, and there was word for word instances where these owners said, I would rather let my vacation rental remain vacant than let a local Hawaiian stay inside of it. That is in quote. So we weren't seeing much movement. We weren't seeing much action from government, the governmental branch. We were already months into our occupation down there on the beach. So, and we decided, you know what, we need to pivot. As we were ramping up this process, you know, that's when the governor and the mayor decided, hey, you're not going anywhere. You're getting a lot of media attention. I think it's time that we call a meeting. And at that meeting is when we fully realized, because, you know, as we were going through, right, that we were digging in, Courtney was reaching out to people, getting information. Everybody here was doing their part in trying to get more information, and then we saw the vast amount of our remaining units were all short-term rentals. Yeah, so we were only looking at a portion of them, but the fact of the matter was it was a bigger issue than we even anticipated. So we're like, you know what? We gotta address this for the immediate, for our people right now, but this is a bigger systemic issue that has caused our people to move away. We wouldn't even be having this conversation right now if these units were actually homes. Yeah. So we pivoted, and we spoke with the governor and mayor. They told us even if we did a moratorium, it's kind of doesn't really make sense because the rebuild phase and the process is gonna take a lot longer than what you guys are asking for. And we're like, okay, well, shit, we gotta pivot. And that's when we were like, let's fix this systemic issue also. Let's get our people long-term dignified housing right now. But let's look at this systemic issue, because this is not only an opportunity to keep our people home, having to move and having this mass exodus because of the natural disaster, but it might be an opportunity to bring our people home. The freaking headlines on the news were ridiculous, crazy, how much millions it would cost for people to buy a single family home, the median price through the roof, and this was one of the biggest contributing factors to that. Yeah, the vast majority of the people who were displaced from Lahaina were all renters because they couldn't own. They couldn't own because everything was too expensive. Everything was too expensive because all of our shit was wrapped up in short-term rentals and vacation rentals and hotel industry, and they were, you know, we were not meeting the demand. The supply was not meeting the demand.
Our housing stock was just for investors and not for homes for people.
And yeah, I think that news coverage, that piece, that documentary that was done on us really did a good job in capturing that moment of pivot. And I will cut to that right now.
And we're back.
But I mean, it took the whole beach occupation, 2 big rallies, a union of unions, historically uniting unions together with Lahaina Strong, with the community, having all these rallies just to get that meeting, right? And I wasn't even a part of that meeting, but just to find out.
Oh, that we also had to learn how to use media. Like, we didn't even know what a media advisory, a press release was. Like, we.
But even in that meeting, when we brought up the Minatoya list, and thank God Jordan brought it up, because I went in assuming that they knew what we were asking and talking about. And then Jordan brought it up, and the mayor goes, "What is that?"
I was like mind blown. Like, we literally been living on the beach for months.
What?
Like, every media piece were like, oh,
Minatoya.
exemption,
Minatoya.
you know, whatever. I mean, phase out the Minatoya, and then it's like, what? Like, are you kidding me right now?
And like,
Like,
we kind of expect the mayor and even the governor to know every single thing that's going on, but that was like our main.
literally, like, we were literally chanting down the beach, like, listen, Mayor, listen.
If Ka'anapali is like this tourist mecca, right, and we have an occupation on their moneymaker for the entire state, you would at least know what the demand is. I think they just assume we went in blind and set up camp. We were also a safety net, right, for people who were living in the hotels, and as they fell through the cracks, a lot of families eventually moved in at the beach until they were able to go and get the help, which we were like a transition, unfortunately.
And I think we didn't even realize that we were gonna be that. And then, like, after how many people came down, we're like, wow, we're a safety net down here.
Yeah.
You know, people were coming to get food from us and just like
And-
talk with us or like, what do you guys know about this? And it was like,
It was like they
Yeah.
knew that they had a place to go and ask, even just to ask questions and information. Like, oh, okay, they're there. If something happens, I know where to go if I need help with something. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, one of the biggest successes
I
of
think
that
so, too.
occupation was
So too.
that.
Well,
and I
not
think
only-
like being also visual, yeah, like people told Katie like from their room seeing like a whole protest like setup was like, okay, people are actively fighting for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the hugest parts was people saw that there was us down there fighting for something, for them, for our town, for everything, and it gave them hope in one of the most like despair times. Like it gave all of us hope as a collective that like we can do something, we can be there, we can make this change. And it was alongside pretty much everybody because we were all going through it together. We were going through all of the grief and emotions and still pushing forward.
Yeah. And it's crazy that a lot of the opposition thinks that we are now paid hotel lobbyists. We are paid Lahaina Strong community organizers, and part of the organizing process is to lobby. So we're not getting paid to do just that. First of all. Second, the hotels hated us.
Literally setting their sprinklers, setting their sprinklers up to hit
To
our
shoot
fucking
our
tents.
tent.
Yeah, like why would
You
they
know
be
what?
paying us if they fucking hate us and want us out?
You know
Like,
what's crazy is that I think they thought that because of the unions, but I'm like, guys, the unions protect the people against the hotels to make
Exactly.
sure that they're paid fair wages and X, Y, and Z. It was a unification of people, not a unification of industries.
Whenever you see people protesting outside of the hotels, like on Oahu, that's the unions organizing it.
So
Yes.
let's just get a little more educated, guys.
so we can split an atom in half. We can send people to space and orbit around space around the Earth for months at a time and living there, floating around with no gravity. We can build a supercar that goes freaking Mach 2 or 3, whatever the crazy is, but we cannot fix stupid. And that's what I've come to realize.
But I think pivoting to the occupation, like during that time when we assessed, all right, we got to go for this state bill. You know, the state bill for giving the power to the counties to phase out STRs. People had tried this for, we heard, upwards to 14 years. And so we're like, all right, we're going for this, mind on the matter. And all of us literally taught ourselves legislation. We had no clue. We taught ourselves alongside community and teach community.
Yeah.
We had good
Together.
mentors.
And
We
get
had good
them
mentors.
and get them to engage in a process,
Yeah.
just like we were, like that they've
Yeah.
never engaged in before, and I think that's a big win for not only our community but like for
Yeah.
Lahaina Strong. It's like
Thousands.
showing people how to do that, to engage in a process that we're like, what is that? No way.
And
From
also-
the beach.
Yeah.
Literally
From the
fucking
beach.
living on the beach, doing
Yeah.
this legislation in the beach,
And
tuning in on Zoom to council and
From the
state
beach.
testimony
Yeah.
hearings
with
from the beach.
with waves so freaking loud and booming that it would suck the air out of your chest and leave you short breath.
Or how you.
No, those are bombs. That's just waving.
Yeah.
Also, there was one morning, just everybody here knows about it, where the waves came real close to my feet. I was in my tent on my blow-up bed, and I was like, that's good, it's fine. And then I wake up to the stars moving, and I'm like, wow, am I having an acid trip where I'm seeing the world go before me and spin faster than? No, I was floating down on the beach on my blow-up bed and ended up in the ocean almost. Yeah, and we were doing that from the beach. Thousands of people engaging in legislation that they never even thought about. I didn't even knew this thing existed in my entire life, and now I know it happens every year.
Yeah.
And
And
thousands
I
of
know, and
people
it's like
who
a
have
it's like a crazy thing.
Every year this happens.
Legislation
What is this?
It's a really hard
It's a
thing to wrap
circus.
your mind around, and it's meant to basically keep,
Yeah.
I think, normal community out of it because we don't. It's so hard to understand. It's so complicated, and it just works for them up there that know what's going on. So the normal humans are like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Like
Very intimidating.
And because of
It's
the
very
fact
intimidating.
that we had the ability, blessing, and privilege to be paid to do this kind of work, we could live on the beach. Oh, we gotta go lobby at the Capitol now? Okay, wake up at the beach, go to the airport, catch a plane, lobby at the Capitol, knock door to door, talk to legislators. A lot of times educating them too
Yeah.
on the issue, which understandable, especially if they're not here on Maui, but from the beach. And then, okay, we come back to the beach.
Yeah.
And I think what made us, I wouldn't say like dangerous, what's so relentless was that we had nothing else to lose already at that point.
I think we said that multiple times. Like, wow, we
Yeah.
lost everything. We have nothing else
Like,
to lose. Like, we're
what?
going for broke now.
Yeah.
Like, we're really going for broke.
Like,
Yeah.
we're in a corner and there's nowhere else to go but forward, and anyone who stands in the way is
Get bulldozed.
going to get bulldozed.
I mean,
And so much so, I've said it multiple times, and I know people have echoed this. Some of us are willing to give our life for this. I'm willing to die right now. If I could die right now and everything be the way it's supposed to be, I would happily give my life for that. And I think that's what made us even more dangerous and powerful is I was willing to die for it, and I still am today.
got that martyr syndrome.
So I think after the multiple, trips to the Capitol and educating and rallying, obviously we were able to help pass SB 2919.
Yeah.
Which was like a pivotal moment. And like Katie had said, like guys were coming up to us saying like, "Wow, we've been trying to fight this 14 years. Like this is amazing," and that's where we like realized like,
And
People power works.
Yeah, exactly. That was the difference. Was people power. We're able to build that.
and like harness that energy and like move.
Crowds of red on every floor of the Capitol, moving, knocking door to
Yeah.
door. We're counting votes, right? We're talking to legislators, seeing where they're gonna vote, counting, and then okay, who's voting no? Next week we're back in their office.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of work and a lot of people power building, a lot of base building, and
Yeah.
And a lot of people we met in that building that just like showed up and was like, "We're here to support you."
Yeah.
Like handed
People
them a
from
shirt
different islands,
and like
yeah.
I remember.
And they still show up to this day.
Yeah, and remember how we were like, okay, we have to do a press conference or a press release, so you gotta set up downstairs, and we had like no idea
Yeah.
how to even do that. Like, do we get a podium? Like, where do we get speakers from? And just calling different people on Oahu and everyone really showing up.
yeah, we
To
have
help us.
so much support from every island, but Oahu especially when we would go to the Capitol, like people picking us up, taking us to the Capitol and then back to the airport, making sure we have food
Yeah.
for a long day of lobbying. Like
Yeah.
we had support, and
Yeah, we did have a
the
lot.
amount of power, people power that we built was huge
Yeah.
and crucial to the passing of 2911.
And
Yeah.
And
I
I-
think that also ties into where we are today, which we're going to get into, but it's not just Lahaina that's waiting for this bill right now in Maui County, Bill 9. It's not just Lahaina watching, it's the entire state. It's people all over that have seen the strength and the power that we've garnered in the worst times of our lives, literally,
And-
are like watching what these council members are going to do.
And what is astounding to me is this is nothing new.
Yeah.
This has happened in multiple states just in the last few years.
We're
People are
actually
coming.
behind.
We are behind, and people
Yeah.
have come with the same concerns. Short-term rentals have been an issue. Not all of them, but the vast amount of all your real estate is wrapped up in transient accommodations for the very few rich people who can go and travel multiple times throughout the year. Like, where does that leave the people who just need a place to live and who just want to stay and work in their own community?
And
you know?
that's exactly the point. Going back to our fears before the fire, affordable housing and stability is a fear across the board for all of Paeaina, Hawaii. Everybody is dealing with lack of stability, affordable housing, and cost of living. So that's why there's so much attention on what we're doing, because we're showing people that we're just showing that we're willing to fight. There are people willing to fight to stay and to make things better for our people. And I think that's what's kind of like why we have attention and maybe even inspiring to other people. And watch, other communities are going to rise up and follow suit too.
I think the more that we highlight and talk about not even just this housing issue, not even just Bill 9, the more people that understand what goes on in the county council, that these 9 members have so much power, the better we are. Like the more we reach this to every corner of our island.
And I think we
Stronger
have,
we
bro.
get, and we
When we
are,
started,
yeah.
how many people were watchdogging legislation
Yeah.
and posting it on Instagram and saying, hey, look at this is bullcrap, like they're lying. Bro, now
And
you go
still,
on Instagram?
That's all I see.
Yeah, like every
Yeah.
other, like, bro, there's so many sick, solid, Akamai, political bulldog watchdogs.
It's,
you know
it's
what I mean?
crazy. Like, I look at it today, like we're building organizations. There's like all these water authorities popping up. We got all these groups doing all kind of crazy like things outside of the box. So when I look at back when our kingdom was overthrown, what happened to the governmental building. It was surrounded, and they were forced to do something that they didn't want to do. As we continue to build this power, I'm seeing we're building little organizations all around. Oh, this person's not going to do it, this entity can't do it. Well, we're going to build 4 organizations that are going to work towards that. And now we've, in a sense, surrounded the very government that surrounded our queen. We are now getting to a point where we are surrounding them and forcing their hand into doing what the community wants. And that's amazing to me to see that. And it's not just us, too.
SB 2919, right? Mayor asked us to come to this big meeting at his office, 9th floor. We're like, oh, what's going on? And he had his, he had the county attorneys there, and they made that ask again, like, what is this Minatoya thing, right? And now it's like they knew what it was, and they had some answers for us, right? The team was looking into it, and I think that's when he told us, like, he was gonna put a bill out. And it was like a little bit of relief, for us, like, okay, we're being heard now, and that's when we really started to ramp up. We were able to leave the beach, kind of counting that as a win, taking a little breather, and then like on to the next fight. The next step was planning commission, and that was a hard fight in itself too. Like
Over 30 hours of testimony.
Over 30 hours of testimony for the planning commission. So much opposition, like against us, sitting in those rooms, like arm to arm with them. Like we fought our way through that.
Yeah.
And now, like to see that we're at our last step, it's like holy crap. Like the time is now, and we just gotta like bring it through the finish line.
And as you mentioned earlier, Dee, like we were even educating some legislators, right, in the state level, and now we're having to do that again at the county level. I can't tell you how many times certain council members look at a piece of paper and this data and fail to recognize how nothing is black and white. Everything, there's a fluctuation and a flow in this direction and here and there, and a lot of the concern has been strictly the economic impact of money and optics for their voting bloc or constituents or whatever you want to call it. But certain individuals fail to recognize that in Maui County, your district does not vote you in. The entire county votes you in. So for those of you who might be feeling a certain way, like, oh, I gotta uphold what my constituents want, just remember, we're your constituents too. And back this last time elections came around, we were very lenient towards everybody that we may not be really agreeable upon, because we know that we couldn't burn those bridges just yet. We needed to be able to work with you guys in this sense to help educate you, to come to the table, because how can I educate somebody on a certain issue or matter and give them a different perspective if they're not even willing to invite me into the room to begin with? That was our motive, that was our strategy. We wanted to still be invited to this table so that we could make them see, oh, this is in fact the case. But no matter how much stuff we pile in front of certain individuals, there's one thing that always comes into that conversation, and it's money. And it's never about what the people want. You can put 1,000 people in front of this person and say, this is what we want. But this paper over here says, oh, we're gonna lose this amount of money, and this person who gives you this money is not okay with it, so I'm gonna make sure that I uphold what this one person wants instead of the hundreds or thousands of community members.
Not to mention that piece of paper and all that data isn't even a holistic view of
yes,
or accurate,
everything. It's not accurate. It's kind of cherry picked.
Yeah. So let me give you an example, real fast. So, certain individual was afraid about losing this money on property tax value for all these short-term rentals. So she gave us this piece of paper, and it said, "Here it is. This is what we're gonna lose." And I said, well, no, that's not, because we're not going after every single short-term rental. It's only half. So cut that number in half. That's more realistic. But let's take it a step further. Yeah? The real property tax value comes off of the property. So you can have 500 units on that property. Yeah? But if your square footage is only this big, and then you go up to Launiopoko, and then you got another square footage just as big with a bigger, better looking view and more swimming pools and just more beautiful, the one with one unit up in Launiopoko actually pays more real property tax than the 400 units that are on this small piece of property. So when you actually dive deeper and look into it all, the 100% of profit that they were afraid to lose was in fact only 19%. 19% of that they were afraid to use. But if I didn't go in this room and tell this person that, they would have no idea because they're not able to look further than what just this piece of paper says. Yeah? So that's why it's super important for us to continuously stay on them, and everybody, and for the entire community to be educated in this also, because we can't catch everything all the time.
And that's a super draining process, yeah, constantly having to make sure that these people know all of the information so that they can make an informed decision. And rather than do that, simultaneously while we're doing that, we've been base building, we've been power mapping and strategizing and finding out people who can serve those roles where we don't have to constantly be watchdogging them and making sure that they're educated, people that are in that seat that will do the right thing. And just know that we got people for every role, every seat.
And I think it's like important to know that like these people in these 9 seats, they watched a whole town burn down. They've watched the suffering. They've watched Lahaina Strong come up alongside other organizations, but they've watched us advocate, you know, against short-term rentals for almost 2 years now. And now everything is riding on them to make this decision. We've had countless hours of testimony, state and county. Like what I said, we've had multiple meetings with almost all of them, pleading our case, bringing the information and the data, and it literally comes down to their votes. So just keeping in mind, these people have watched this for almost 2 years. So we need to watch how they're gonna make this final decision.
Yeah. Not to mention, we've asked for meetings with every council member, and not everyone gave us a meeting.
Yeah.
And
Very
so
true.
we were prepared to come to the table and figure out the solutions and help them move through whatever was blocking their decision to pass this bill, because each council member has something that they're concerned about, and you know, and for the ones that we were able to meet with, we were able to help them understand and figure out solutions moving forward. Because for every problem or obstacle that was brought to our attention, tell me not, we've come up with like 5 different solutions.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say is, when's the last time that you've ever seen community in support of something that the government is proposing?
Yeah.
I have never seen it, not one time. And it's the first, we've always been reactive. We always got to show up and be like, no, this no can, or no, this no can. This is the first time we're saying this is something that the community wants. So, if in fact we end up getting to a point where we lose this battle, it is because certain individuals don't really care about the community that they back. Yeah? Because this is the first time in history, to my understanding, that we're in support of something. Yeah?
Our
So
future is
yes.
riding on the decision of
Our
9
entire
people.
future right now of Hawaiʻi, not just Maui, because this will be used throughout the state if it is in fact successful. If not, it is riding on that 9 people. To me, the way I see it, if you are a no vote, you are a no can.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah? If you are a no vote on Bill 9, we were very lenient last election year. We will not be this time. We will not.
We're ready to
We
throw
are not
down.
afraid
Taking
to
those
say
seats.
exactly what needs to be said to every single person, so they know who you truly and really are. All of you. Every single one of these council members. We will let the community know from our conversations, from our little emails on the side, from all of the things that we've watchdog you guys do. We will put that on display for the entire community to watch. And all we gotta do is tell the truth. And we can let the community decide how they feel about you.
Yeah, and either way this goes, like, we are extremely proud of how everybody has reacted and is fighting for this
Yeah.
so wholeheartedly and so strongly, and it's going to continue. Like, we're going to be fired up either way. We're going to continue this fired up, but if it doesn't go, that if it's a no vote, I think our fired up is going to turn into a different movement.
It's gonna be
It's going
rage.
to turn into a massive movement of how do we just flip the entire script.
There are so many people, and they tell us all the time, right? Like, thanks so much. Like, oh, you guys, you're handling that. Like, there's so many people watching. They're engaged a little bit, or maybe not even engaged at all besides following, that are just counting on the fact that we're gonna do this. Like, we have so much momentum. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are engaged on this, trying to push this forward.
Not to mention the thousands of pieces of testimony that we were able.
So if this doesn't go through, the amount of outrage that will come from the community will honestly probably double our numbers. And you've seen what we could do in the last 2 years. Have fun campaigning against Lahaina Strong. There hasn't been a community movement this big in the last couple decades, except besides the GMO moratorium fight, and the champions of that fight say that this is even bigger. The amount of attention we were able to amass, the amount of people we were able to engage.
And what happened after the GMO? They flipped the council,
Yeah,
and we got
exactly.
majority, right? And so I think it's really important to like touch on whether we get the vote or not. History will be made either way. Either this bill passes and everything we worked for 2 years is gonna come to fruition,
Not
or
even just 2 years. This is like over
True.
a decade building.
Yeah.
decades in the making, or
And then
on
our
the other
council
hand,
members are champions, right? They push this through, everybody's happy, the community is happy, the council members are champions,
trust. Build trust
or
with the community.
history the other way is they show their true colors, profit over people. They show the flaw in this process, and they'll be sorry when it happens.
We get them out and we get people for our people.
So, yeah, just so the community knows, Lahaina will win regardless. Either we're gonna lose, we're gonna win, and all of these housing units are gonna be available for our people. Prices are gonna start to come down. People are gonna move home. All of this stuff, or we will flip the council. And I vow to this Lahaina community that if this is the case and we end up losing, this council will look very different in the next few years. I promise you that. I promise you that. And that being said, there are people that have come up to me just in the last 2 days saying that the reason they're still here in Hawaiʻi is because they know somebody is fighting for them. They went to go look for housing. It didn't work out for them. And they said, you know what? There's a reason it didn't work out for me. They said, I stayed here because I know that you guys are fighting for me. And that's the only reason that I felt comfortable even saying that. Oh, maybe we have a shot and maybe we have a chance. So we either will get this one big win, which will help a lot of things, or we flip the council and we will get 100 big wins. Back to back to back to back. Because all we need is one more vote in that council building. There are 9 members. 4 of them are always very pro-community. Yeah? The other 5 have been kind of flip-floppy, wishy-washy. They always side with development. We only need to flip one guy. And I think the goal is to flip all of them.
So it's just like, what are we going to put our energy into? If we know this bill isn't a fix-all, right? So we pass this bill and then we move on to the next thing that's going to help affordable housing and cost of living. Or we pour all our energy into flipping the council so that the council can move forward on all of these things.
Yeah.
We got a plan
And
either
honestly,
way.
that might be even better.
Lahaina Strong has a plan either way. However this
But
happens,
in
we have a
reality,
plan.
flipping the council might be even a better thing. Like if we lose this and flipping the council, because imagine, now we gotta go advocate, say 2 years down the line, we got the same council members. Oh, now we gotta go do all of this fighting all yet again. But if we just flip one of these guys, we don't even have to do that extra work anymore. All we gotta do is be like, hey, you guys know this is community. We already got 5 votes, we're good.
The last time we had a pro-community majority council, they banged. They got so much work done. We need that.
We need that.
And I
And
think
Time
if it
is
comes
now.
to it, I'll move to Kihei if I have to. I'll move to Kihei and I will run for Kihei.
Yeah,
I'll move to any place on this island and make myself I'm being serious. I'm gonna live. If I'm willing to give my life for this movement, I'm willing to move someplace else just to be for the strategic
Hey,
factor.
moving to Kihei might be giving your life now.
give me the armpit of
No, wait, I'll edit that out for our Kihei people.
But I want to say,
Nah.
you know, one person that we have been watching, and I think he knows the community's watching, is Tom Cook. You know, he said in one of the county meetings recently, he was at the Makakoa rodeo and he looked around and he was thinking, how does the community see me? And so I think I just want to like remind him and the other 5, like, people are watching and people are hoping you're gonna do the right thing.
Just follow your gut, man.
And I
Follow
think
what you know is
for the
Follow
record
what
too.
you said. You said you fucking support it.
For the record, like
Real life, sorry.
we respect each and every one of them, right? We've talked to them. We know that is not an easy job and not an easy position to have, and a lot of the decisions are hard to make. So this is not at all demonizing any one of them, right? Especially Tom Cook. Like, I've had multiple conversations. He's a very respectful, very nice man. All he sees the layers of all this stuff. He's not a bad person, but bad people, good people sometimes don't make the best decisions.
If anything, he's just in a tough spot because of what his district looks like.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, none of this would ever be personal. We never come after somebody for personal reasons. We come after somebody to try and flip that position because it's what's best for everybody and best for this community.
End of the day, it's about the community.
Yeah.
Because again,
It's never malicious.
everyone's future is in their hands, so we're gonna treat it as such. We're not gonna just let this skate by and be like, okay, we lost.
Yeah.
Let's just walk away with our heads down. It's like, no, we come back stronger. We have more time to build more people power.
And we're still gonna have our
We
heads
have more
high.
time to learn, to build relationships,
Yeah.
to help other people come up and to learn. And then next time this bill comes around,
And to clear up what Jordan said, we're not watching because he's a problem. We're watching because we feel like he can make the right decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
council members who we straight up know are gonna vote no, and we don't watch them because they're not worth their time, and they didn't even give us the time of day anyway.
And I think that's a part of like the community weighing in, right? Is like reminding them what's important to the community and the constituents who vote them into power, and like empowering them to make the right decisions.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, we know it's never malicious, it's never personal. It's for our community and for the generations to come. If I'm afraid to go after a certain person because of how they might feel about it and they feel like we're attacking them or whatever, if I'm afraid to take that step, then we shouldn't be in these kind of positions. Yeah. We do it because it is life-saving and life-changing. Yeah. We might
the
flip this
collective.
one person, and how many lives could that save? How many people would stay in Hawaii just from this one person making the right decision? And we all know that. But to the community also, just remember, just because they say something and they go a certain way, it doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah.
You voted them into that position. Your taxes pay their wages. They wake up every day and open their icebox with that electricity that you are helping pay for. You put the gas in their gas tank, the clothes on their back, the food in their mouth at the end of the day. The community pays you that, and we put you in that position to make the decision for us. And if you don't do that, then you shouldn't be there. And to the community, remember that. Just because they go a certain way doesn't mean it's permanent, that they have to stay there. Yeah? Don't get stuck in this, in the hustle and bustle and just the routine of voting for the same person because you think their name looks familiar on this piece of paper. Get familiar with who they are. Get familiar with what they advocate for. Get familiar with all the things that they push through or say no to. That's the person that you want to vote for. The one that's in alignment with you. Not because it's familiar, not because they did one good thing. Yeah? It's because they do what is right for this community. So remember that moving forward into this Bill 9, into the future. All of us, all of Hawaii. And we go after those who shouldn't be where they are.
We're reaching a point in everything, globally, honestly, where indifference is just as bad as being an evil person. Like, now is the time to step up, to get involved, and to advocate for what's right in whatever realm that is, whether it's Aina, whether it's politics, whether it's like homeless, whether it's, child school lunches. But start standing up so we have an army of community in every sector of life so we can change things and make things for the better already. Because if we don't, these kids are gonna suffer, and that's your fault. Your indifference was basically the same as the evil actions that put us in this situation.
I think we all got to get out of that. Now someone else get them.
Yeah.
Because the people
Yeah.
get them, or the people that we think get them, they don't have it. They don't get them. They don't. And that's where it's dangerous, is we're leaving these decisions in the hands of people who shouldn't be holding that position of power and making those decisions on our behalf, because they're getting paid by someone else to make a different decision that doesn't put our people's needs.
You don't want to do it because someone else get them? Watch that someone else be your kid. That fight gets passed on to your kid, and now your kid is fighting the fight that you refuse to fight.
I think Brandon Makakoa puts it like one of my favorite quotes. Every time I hear him say it, it always hits me, is we're trying to leave our children a foundation, not a fight.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. I look at my kids, I'm like, I don't want you to fight like this. The emotional toll it takes, physical, mental, like, imagine the money that they could, the ideas they come up to create, you know, streams of income to help pay for the things that our council members are worried about that we're going to lose from STRs if they had a foundation and didn't have to fight. Because we have paved the way for them to spread their wings and figure it out. I think people forget how resilient our people are and how smart we are. But everyone is so busy in a fight that we don't even have the headspace to even think of those things yet, because we're just trying to figure out the basic needs: water, food, housing.
We're already in a bad place. Our kids aren't talking about what they want their future to look like. They're not reaching for the stars and dreaming big. They're thinking, how can I buy a house in my home? We're already in a bad place. Let's change that. And we have the power to do it now. You have to go, huh?
You want to make the ask? Who wants to make the ask? Let's just make the ask. The ask is like,
Show up.
show up. So I think at the end of all this, like, we appreciate everybody for their support over, you know, almost 2 years, and even, you know, going from far back. But we wouldn't have gotten this far without you guys, and I think really just humbly asking you guys to stand with us to bring this to the finish line.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 23rd.
No, you don't have to write testimony or give testimony.
Just be there.
Just be there.
Just be there and tell them, hey, we're watching you. We're all in that room watching what you're saying, the decision that you're gonna make, and every single person will remember it. And we will remind everybody, this entire community, until next elections come around. We'll remind you what they said. We'll remind you what they did. And we'll remind you what is important. And that is our community and this place for generations to come.